The Orlando Magic were not supposed to survive what happened to them in the opening weeks of the season. They stumbled out of the gate with a 1-4 record, their offense sputtering and disjointed, looking nothing like the promising young core people expected them to become. And then the worst possible news hit them like a punch to the ribs. Paolo Banchero, the centerpiece of their rebuild and the player everything was supposed to orbit around, went down with an injury that would remove him from the lineup for 3 long weeks. Most teams with this kind of youth, this kind of inexperience and this kind of early instability would have folded. They would have chalked the season up to bad luck. They would have unraveled. But the Magic did something completely different. They surged. They reinvented themselves. They clawed all the way back to a 14-9 record, landing in the top half of the Eastern Conference standings and refusing to let adversity write their story for them. They did almost all of it without the one player the franchise was designed around. And because they survived it, because they thrived in it, the entire structure of their season has transformed. What was once a crisis has become the blueprint for something far more dangerous. That transformation began with Franz Wagner and Desmond Bane, 2 players who refused to let Orlando drift into irrelevance. When Paolo went out, Franz took the offense and reshaped it in his own image. He became the downhill force the Magic desperately needed, averaging over 23 points per game while relentlessly attacking the rim night after night. His free throw attempts soared. His touches became more decisive. His confidence swelled. And even though he finished a far lower percentage of his shots at the rim than expected, he kept coming back to that space because he understood that Orlando's identity depended on that pressure. It was not always perfect, but it was powerful. His performances against Chicago, San Antonio, and especially Miami showed a player who was no longer simply a secondary scorer next to Paolo. He was evolving into someone who could carry the offense for stretches without compromising the system the Magic were trying to build. And while Franz found a new gear, Desmond Bane discovered his role within a team still figuring out who they were without their star. His first 8 games were uncomfortable and inefficient, as he struggled to fit into the flow and spent more time navigating his place in the lineup than impacting games. But once the rhythm arrived, once he found his spots and trusted the system around him, he became exactly what Orlando traded for. A reliable secondary scorer who could bridge the gaps between the starters, a playmaker who could settle possessions when Franz sat, and a shooter who stretched defenses just enough to pry open the lanes Orlando needed. His 27-point night against the Knicks alongside Franz's 37 was the clearest example yet of what this Magic team can look like when its engines fire in sync. That was the moment they no longer looked like an interesting young squad with potential. They looked like a postseason problem. But the rise was not powered only by scoring. The Magic discovered something far more essential during Paolo's absence. Anthony Black became the silent current that lifted everything. His development didn't scream from box scores, but the impact was massive. The offense elevated by nearly 10 full points per 100 possessions when he was on the floor. The pace quickened. The pressure increased. Transition baskets became a constant threat. His scoring grew steadier. His perimeter shot became more reliable. He had breakout performances against Philadelphia and Chicago that showcased a player who didn't have to dominate the ball to dominate possessions. But the inconsistency remains, forming the biggest question around him. On nights where he fades, where he becomes tentative, the Magic lose the version of themselves that makes them dangerous. But when he is aggressive, when he plays downhill, when he brings energy on both ends, Orlando looks like a team ready to punch above its age. Beyond the rising stars and the promising prospects, 3 role players quietly stabilized everything. Wendell Carter Jr. anchored their defensive presence with elite rim protection and floor spacing few big men provide. Tristan da Silva emerged as the prototypical playoff wing, a player who fits seamlessly into any lineup without demanding touches. And Jalen Suggs has etched his name into the emotional spine of this roster. There is no metric that captures the sheer force his presence brings, but the defensive rating swing tells the truth. With Suggs, Orlando looks dominant. Without him, they look vulnerable. He is the heartbeat, the tone setter, the chaos engine that makes every game feel like a fistfight. That defensive identity matters, especially for a team still gaining its offensive rhythm. And that identity is why the Magic didn't collapse without Paolo. They had built a culture of physicality, purpose, and pressure. They had already begun playing playoff basketball in December. And then came Paolo's return. His first game back wasn't gentle. It wasn't designed for easing in. It came against Miami, a team that turns every matchup into an emotional battle. Instead of forcing his way into the narrative, Paolo blended into it. He played with patience. He didn't hijack the offense or revert to the early season mid-range habits that had stalled their rhythm. He embraced the structure Orlando had built without him, showing an awareness far more valuable than a 25-point night. He let Franz and Suggs take control. He allowed the offense to flow through the pieces that had carried it. And in doing so, he revealed how high this team's ceiling truly is. Paolo doesn't need to dominate possessions to dominate outcomes. He just needs to elevate what already works. As his legs return, his aggression will return. The scoring bursts will come back. The takeover moments will resurface. But now he returns to a team with direction, identity, and confidence. This Orlando team is no longer a fun young squad trying to find itself. It is something heavier, something harder, something built for April. They swarm defenses, punish mismatches, and drag opponents into games that feel like playoff wars. And now, their franchise star is stepping back into a system that has already learned how to win without him. If they find the balance, if Paolo merges his power with the Magic's evolving rhythm, this team will not just make noise in the East. They will become a problem. Thank you for watching. Do you think the Magic are already rising into true playoff threat territory, or will reintegrating Paolo slow down their newfound identity? Drop your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive into the NBA's most surprising